difference. Thanks, Tim. The difference is, I can tell you why I'm so great, but who cares, right? Who cares? Do you care where I went to school? Do you care what book I wrote? You know, there was a little bit at the end, you got to put in something, but the thing is, nobody cares about you. They care about them and their problems. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Here's the thing, is when you meet somebody, and I know there's government people, there's small firm people here, there's some big firm people that I didn't talk to, but here's the thing, right? Here's the fourth thing we're going to talk about. The third thing is the most important. I did it second to last, just like Melissa scheduled second to last. The best speaker is second to last. The point is, thinking like an owner, it's a whole new way to think about being of service, okay? And nobody wants to hear your bio. They want to hear how are you going to help them. And I want you to think about that as we go through, because when you meet somebody, and everyone's a potential client, even if you're in government, maybe they're a potential employer, and this is not like well, it could be at a cocktail party. And some people say only you should only have friends that are clients, or whatever. Forget about all the rules. And by the way, you don't have to take what I'm saying as, who says that? You don't have to take everything I say, but I want you to at least be open. You know, if you're open today, you're going to get a lot out of this presentation. Where was I going with that? But thinking like an owner is like, how can I be of service? Right? That's the key for this presentation. I'm going to talk a lot, and hopefully I'm going to listen because you'll participate. But I want you to think about throughout the whole presentation, how can I be of service? When you meet someone, you say, what do you expect me to get out of this seminar? Right? You instantly listen to and maybe you can be helpful. But you're certainly not going to be helpful by saying you're a best-selling author. I mean, there was that stuff at the end. But you know, you went to this school, you're smart, and you made partner faster than anyone in the world. Nobody cares. You care about how you can help them. We're going to talk about that. So that's the why I'm not so great. Here's the here's the four things we talk about. That. Before we get into that, I want to tell you an example about Alice, one of my clients, because I think it's helpful, constructive. Hopefully I thought that, because otherwise I'm going to talk about the example. Alice is a superstar technical tax lawyer. She's really smart. She's thoughtful. She reads through, the law, the statute before giving advice. She doesn't jump to conclusions. She doesn't talk as fast as I did, which is a plus. And when she writes, she communicates in a way that really translates the concept. So a layman, Tim, you and I have been talking about this, a layman, a partner, anybody can pick something up. They don't have to do work. They say, okay, I get what you're saying. And by all measures, Alice is really successful. You may know people like Alice. She's billing at the highest rates. It's like, was it 1900 to 2000? What's good? 2100? She's billing superstar. She's making a lot of money. She's not happy. She's not happy. You know why she's not happy? Because she feels overwhelmed. She likes doing tax law, but she doesn't, she feels that her whole life is billing hours. And she feels imposed upon by the firm. She says, I don't want to go network and schmooze. I hate that. I just want to do my work. And can anyone here relate to Alice? Yes. Good, okay. And the thing is I can relate to Alice too, which is why I love doing this stuff, is because back then when I was a junior associate, I had those same feelings, because the question that I didn't ask myself was, how do I define success? By the way, you'll notice a lot of repetition. Somebody told me, if you tell somebody, this is kind of wobbly. If you tell somebody something 3 times, they may get it once. How do I define success? I went to law school because I wanted to make money. I didn't want to serve people. I didn't even connect those two things. It wasn't until I really realized that to be successful, basically serving people, right, being of service, there's a direct correlation between being of service and being successful. So with hours and all this other stuff and praise and everything, but the real thing is being of service, number 3, right? So too bad we have to get through 1 and 2 to get there. But let's talk about how we let's talk about these concepts. First one is communicate effectively. We're going to get back to Alice. So there's a bunch of words on this slide. And the key thing here is you can't meet somebody or exceed someone's expectations if you don't understand them. And I think you can learn a lot by iced tea, right? Let's talk about iced tea. Anyone here drink iced tea? Tim, second chance, please.
I do drink iced tea.
Good, okay. Anybody love iced tea?
It's unsweet.
Good. Tim, wow, it's like I'm feeding you this stuff. Good thing about iced tea. So I was ordering iced tea yesterday, and the waitress said, sweetened or unsweetened? And I said, unsweetened. Okay. I said, also, just FYI, I like a lot of refills. I'm going to be drinking a lot, so I just wanted to put you on notice. So she came by, okay, and she had 3 things in her hand. She had 2 iced teas, and she had a big cup of ice. And in the iced teas, she had a lemon. And the lemon wasn't on the side, which is already offensive to me, but it was in the iced tea. And there was also a spoon in in each of these glasses. She sat down in glasses and she said, oh, and I brought you an extra iced tea since you said you drink a lot of iced teas. And here's the point about that somewhat silly example. Yes, I could have been clearer, right? Just like your partners and your bosses and your clients and your colleagues could be clearer. But most of the time, I'm not going to be clearer. So the question is, how could she have been a superstar of service, right? And the way is by asking questions. And you say, well, I can't ask my partner questions. We'll get into that. It's always facts and circumstances. But here's the thing. What didn't I like about the situation? She didn't have any idea about my expectations. She knew I wanted a lot of iced teas. But the thing is, I couldn't stand when I saw the iced teas that she brought. The ice that was in there was not that much, first of all, and it was melted. And so when I'm looking, I'm drinking the iced tea, I'm like, oh my God, I got to race against time here because that little ice that's there is melting. And further, I don't want to take my iced tea and pour it onto the ice. You know that mess? And now I need napkins and everything. I'm like, I can't trust myself to do this. I completely hated that she brought the extra ice. I hated that she brought two iced teas, and I hated the lemon and the spoon. And all that could have been avoided by some questions. You say, well, nobody asked those questions. Well, that's why we're here. Right? Because you're going to be different than everybody. You're going to think like an owner. You're going to think about, how can I serve? And people are going to say, oh my God, that person's outstanding. There's so many people that I work with that are brilliant. They write these brilliant briefs, they write these brilliant memos, and they don't know who the from line should be. Right? When you're writing a memo, who should it be from? And I say, why am I wasting CLE credit? Or at least you're getting the credit, so who cares what I say? But why am I wasting CLE credit by thinking about who the memo should be from? Well, because if you're working for a partner like yours, they might want their name on it, right? Or they probably won't want Melissa's name on it. That's probably sure. So is it from the firm? Is it from the partner? And you want to think about these things, and it all ties to understanding preferences. And it's not like you get a partner or whoever it is, whatever you call that person, your boss, your colleague, you're working with, and they give you a assignment and say, hey, you know what? I talked to this, I heard this guy, and he gave me a bunch of questions to ask. Let me ask you questions. Number one, how do you like X? How do you like Y? How do you like to be communicated to? They'll be like, get out of here. I'm never giving you an assignment again. But there's partners' assistants that can be very helpful, right? The assistants are the best people in the world, especially if they've been with a partner forever. You buy them some coffee and you say, listen, I'm new here. I'm just trying to figure it out. And a lot of you have been working at places for a while, but this still can apply. You say, can you give me a sense of his quirks or her quirks so I can, because I know I'm going to write a brilliant memo anyway, but I want to make sure I meet that person's preferences. Other associates, other people that work with the partner. So there's all these things: receiving, there's working on the assignment, presenting conclusions. The biggest thing on for this portion, the biggest thing is understand the question, right? And restate the question. I wrote something here. Isn't that right? Am I on the right track? Someone says something to you. The thing is, when you communicate, the other person might not. You bring different backgrounds, the communicator and the receiver. So saying, am I on the right track? I understood you to say blank. Am I missing something? That does two things. One is it actually ensures you're going to do what was asked. And two, it builds rapport. And what could be the harm in that? Ask questions, do all this stuff. How should the results be communicated? Again, you're not going to go through these questions and ask the partner, and they'll say, I never want to work with you again. But if you understand some of these things, maybe not the partner, maybe it's from the assistant or somebody else, you're going to go a long way. Partner and client's time is so important. If someone says, well, I want the memo by next Monday. And then you just go the whole time, say, I don't know, by next Monday, another person gives you an assignment. If you understand why the first person, what the timing was for the first person, maybe that first person had a partner meeting like the next day, or the next day after the assignment was due, so that would be relevant. Or maybe there was no deadline. A lot of times there is no deadline. If you understand what's driving their timing, that's going to help you as you not only do that assignment, when you're 3 days in, you're like, geez, I haven't even made any progress, but it's going to help you with dealing with the next assignment. So I've talked a lot. Let's see. Is it time for some? Let's do this. Just to emphasize the point. Do you have a business card?
I do have
Okay, let's take it. Anyone, please take out your business cards. Let's do this. Just to really get it. Okay. Everyone, hold up their business card. This is just in case you missed the first part of the presentation. Hold up your card. Do you have it? I know some people don't have cards. All right. This is what I want you to do. The next time you're at a networking event, okay, I want you to forget the business card. Okay? Because that's what sorry about me. No. That's what's they're either going to do that or they're going to leave it on the table. You've seen this. Melissa, your card's probably been left on a lot of tables. Here's the thing. This is what I told Alice. I told Alice, she said, I don't want to go to these events. She wouldn't be here unless there was CLA, just like you. And I said, Alice, you like to talk about consolidated regs, and it's so incredibly boring. Like, you like talking about that. Don't ever go to another conference unless you're speaking. I want you to speak. I don't want you to network. I don't want you to go up and say, hi, I'm a tax lawyer, and how was the football game? Forget it. You get on that panel, and you either host the panel or you speak, right? You're a presenter, and you talk about consolidated regs, right? Because that's what you love talking about. But here's the key. You say, well, what does this have to do with it? Well, think like a partner. You substitute it for owners, since you guys are, some of you are government or whatever. The point is that the only two things is she talks about what she talks about, so it's marketing versus selling, right? The distinction is you're creating a demand for you. You're not pitching you. Pitching you would be selling. But the second point, this is important for Alice, and probably a lot of you, is talk about it, tell the audience why they care, right? What I told you why you care is because after listening to you speak, if you just get one thing out of it, you're gonna excel. And people say, well, why do I need you? You know, do we miss that slide? Kind of went a little too fast here. Melissa said, I'm going to hurry so we get to the next person. Oh, I don't know why we didn't cover this way. You say, why? Who cares? I'm not at a big firm. I don't even care about you in your book. And I don't want to be an associate. Or I am an associate. I'm going to be, after another 50 grand, I'm out of you. Well, it's relevant to anybody because the thing is if you think along these lines, or at least you're open to it, you're going to get to where you want to go faster. It's worked for me, and it works for all the people that I coach. And it's just the bottom line. Is because, so you might want to go to government. You might want to leave Tim and start your own firm, right? Or you might want to, did you know you were starting your own firm? You might want to go to a big firm or whatever. So this is relevant to everybody, and that's why Melissa has me here. And so I want you to, in your mind, you say, well, I'm not going to be an associate, and the stuff he's talking about is so basic. Well, if it's so basic, then why aren't you speaking? You know what I mean? And I've had people say that. They say, well, what is this? Why is this related to law? That's what people say. Well, it's related to law, it's related to communication and feedback. It's because most lawyers don't think about this stuff. They say, listen, if I just present brilliant work and brilliant ideas, I'm done. I'm going to make money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they don't think about these sort of things that, I don't know what group thinks about it, but whatever group thinks about it, they're successful. So, all right, now we covered that. So we did the card. People have questions? You can ask questions at any time. All right, you think about your questions. Receiving the assignment, okay, so you go through all that stuff. How should the results be? Oh, here's a good one. Status updates. I have associates tell me all the time, you get the assignment on a Monday, and the partners, and they say, I want this in a week from now. And so you're going along, and the associate by Wednesday has tried a little bit, you've worked on it a little bit, got nothing. You've ever had this happen to you? You're reaching, you kind of hit a brick wall, you have nothing. You have nothing to show for your time. For 12 hours that you might be scared to bill, because you don't even have anything to show for it. What do you do? Anyone have a thought? Great. So here's the thing is, I'm not saying you check in with them every single day, right? I still have nothing, I'm still a loser. No. But the thing is that partner, on his or her mind, or whoever you call them, that person that you're working for, is saying, I wonder what's happening with that assignment, right? And you don't want to be on the other end of getting the email where they say, oh gosh, now I got the email and I still have nothing, right? So status reports, even if you have nothing to say, look at me, I'm talking, I have nothing to say. Status reports are very important because you want to get ahead of that. You want to get ahead of that. You want to keep your partner or whoever you're working with. It's like, this is the whole point. It's like you're an owner and you have customers and you're selling widgets. And if a customer said, here, I want this widget, you would say, okay, you're going to get that in 10 days or something. And by the way, if you were having trouble getting the widget, you would not respond unless you want to go out of business. You'd email and say, I'm working on your specifications and maybe I have some follow-up questions, but you give them a status report. I think that's the thing. Working on the assignment. Okay, make sure you're going down the right path before too far. So many people, preferred method time context, pretty self-explanatory. So don't you need people that go through every bullet? So make sure you're going down the right path before the wrong path. So this is very important. A lot of times the question being, you want to make sure you understand the question. We talked about how to do that. A lot of times the question being asked, because they haven't done the work, and I know, when I was a partner, I did no work. No, I would give assignments because I didn't want to do the work. I wouldn't get in the weeds, because if I was going to get in the weeds, I might as well do the work. So I would ask you to do it. What's your name? Right here. Yeah. Marlon. I would ask Marlon, I'm like, Marlon, go do X, Y, Z. Well, it turns out the X, Y, Z is the wrong question, right? And Marlon knew it was the wrong question, but he keeps running. He said, well, that's what this guy asked me to do. Well, the thing is that's why you need to check in and say, and not, it's all how you do it, of course, the nurturing, they call it the nurturing ego, or whatever the psychologist calls it, but you say, I understand you asked me this, and I've got some answers on that. I wonder if you've considered X, Y, Z, because here's some other things that may be helpful, couches, that sort. So that's very important. Presenting conclusions, and this is, we probably spent too much time on this topic, but presenting conclusions is how often you check in, be sensitive to minutiae. We talked about from titles, order of recipients, and so many people say, what do you mean, order of recipients? Who cares? You're working at a big firm, and the managing partner is a name, last name begins with Z. You don't put that person last. You just don't. Now, some people don't care about it. Odds are, if they're the managing partner or they're in management, they do care about those kinds of things. And even if they don't, you can't hurt yourself. Have a pattern that's sensitive. That's the point. Have a pattern that's sensitive. Understand people's expectations. Understand minutia. So many times people are working on a project, and someone else in the firm or in the group has worked on that project. And you better get buy-in from that person, because number one, it can help you. They wrote a memo on it, or they worked on the case. Why would you start from scratch? And so you want to understand, has anyone worked on anything related to this project, right? So many people I have this for, and even at my job now, because we're all very specialized, but you never want to leave somebody out, because if that person finds out, or if the partner or whoever you're working with says, did you check in with so-and-so? Because she wrote a brilliant article on this. And you're like, no, I didn't. So now that's -2. Always think about who else has worked on this before, and you don't want to leave out people. Okay, so rigorous. So this is research and writing we're going to talk about, and then we'll get to the owner point. Let's see. Okay. So basically, the bottom line is, and I have this question. Did you want to ask questions? Okay. But I get to this point all the time is people say, well, you don't know my facts, you don't know my case, and everything. Is my approach to cases and law and working in general is to do the work, right? So all this stuff that I'm saying, that's very interesting. Communicate and this and ripping up the card, that's fun. But you got to do the work. Full stop. This is not tricks. This is how to get ahead by coasting. Because I want to be at that course. But this is, you do the work plus. This is the plus. On that score, particularly at firms, even if it's a small firm, whatever, you have billing constraints. You say, well, I don't know, it's going to take me a lot longer to do the project than allocate. My approach is, and there is this balance, but my approach is do the work. Get it done. And that's easy for me to say, right? I'm not sitting there doing it like you are. But do the work, whatever it takes to do it, and then you worry about the billing later. Now, there's a lot of people that disagree with me. They say, listen, the client only budgeted 10 hours, or I'm smaller, I can't go and think about, pontificate, and think about things for hours and hours and not get results. Well, I hear that, and I understand that, and you got to do what works for you. But I say, get to the bottom of something. You want to have the greatest work possible, and then you can, this is part of the question and the answer, either with the assistant, or the partner itself, or someone worked with the partner. Hey, I billed these hours. I know you only allocated, first of all, how much time do you allocate to this project? Right, that was on another slide. And then it's, okay, I've gone over by, so-and-so. And I understand that I have, see, that's the thing, it's all about being sensitive. They told you how many hours, so you don't say, I overbilled, you deal with it. I understand your constraints and your client's constraints is that they wanted 20 hours and I did 40 hours. How would you like me to handle it? But by the way, if you're the guy that did 40 hours, you have the work to show for it, right? It's not, I did 40 hours and I still suck. I got to the answer, but it was a little longer, so that's my view on that. Just like Alice, start with the background, keep reading, writing. The two thoughts I have on writing is, and I see this all the time, is people say, I wrote, I'm just so sick of this, like, here it is, I'm done, right? The three things you can tell from my repetition. I like to say something, right, summarize it, say it, and summarize it. That's the way I write. Other people, and I might write really, no, but other people have different approaches. But repetition is very helpful, right? Because it takes people a couple of times to get it. And sometimes, and when I say repetition, you're not going to use the same words. You're saying it in a different way because there's a lot of different, but it's the same summary, basically. What I say to people that get so frustrated, especially when you have to manage your workload, which is another thing, another topic altogether, but is you keep doing, and once you get to that point where you're like, I'm done. I just got to turn it in, time's up, blue goes down. That's your first draft. And people fighting on this, they say, well, you don't know. Well, it turns out if you do, you put it aside, you come back to it, even a day later, you're going to find out that nits are the worst thing. Nits will kill you. Minutes are like death by 1,000 cuts. You got a period wrong, you got a question mark. Doesn't matter how brief, how good the brief is, how good the memo is. You guys know this. If you got nits, you're out. You don't want nits, and you can avoid nits by doing that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure how for everyone else it works, but I know for a lot of lawyers, and I know the best writing product that they turn in is something that they finish, they put it down for a night, they come back to it, and their mind's fresh.
Right.
How does a junior attorney not train, but get the point across to more senior attorney that if you even need this extra 12 hours, the writing product will be 24 hours for
All
that?
right. That's a very good question. Thanks. So, again, it's always starting from what's in it for me, right? That's what we try to start with. I try to emphasize that point. And I think too many times associates go in with their agenda. You said it beautifully, but that's how everyone says it, and that's why I'm here. Hey, here's my thing. Here's my thing. In other words, the thing has to be turned around. You say, I'd like another 12. You give me another 12, it'll be 10 times better. What I say is reversing. You know that partner, you may know, you have a sense. Hopefully you know what's driving their timing because you listened to the slides beforehand. But you know what's driving your timing, so you say, I understand this is driving your timing, or I understand in other words, what did they think, right? I wonder if it would be helpful, right? You want their buy-in, so it's your suggestion, but they have to sign on to it. So it's all about whether they think it works for their thing, not because you need the time. And that's a refinement. So to answer your question, what I would do is I'd say, I understand your time. You were very clear about your timings. You wanted it by tomorrow morning. And I understand that. And I understand it's the day before. So you say things like that put you in short, my partner used to say, put you in short pants. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think in the old days, like if you wanted to mess up a kid, you put them in short pants. But the thing is put yourself in short pants. Right? Put yourself in short pants and say, I know that it's the day before. I know you had this timing. Here is what I'm thinking, and here's the, remember the bio? Here's the challenge, here's the solution, here's the outcome, right? What I'm thinking, the challenge is that it would take another 12 hours to get to X, and this would be the outcome. What is your thought about that? You know what I'm saying? Is that helpful? Yeah, so just switch it around. So many times, is when you go in starting with your agenda, it won't, well, sometimes it'll work, but a lot of times it won't. Good question. Yeah, I think we've kind of run this to the ground. So that's key members. Okay. Think like a partner. All right, so what is this all about? What is this whole speech about? So many people I talk to, and that's why I coach, is they think like an employee. It's like you against the man, or you against the woman. It's like, when can I take my vacation? We all have these thoughts. Except me, I was born, never had these thoughts. But do I have to go to this networking event? Alex, right? Is the firm going to help me? Do you see that that's thinking like an employee? You say, well, I am an employee. Well, if you want to be an employee your whole life, keep having those thoughts. Keep having those thoughts and asking those questions. If you want to achieve big things, right? That's a little bit, that's a little bit exaggerated, right? Like you can still achieve big things and not do any of this stuff, but you get the point. Listen to the reframing or look at the reframing. Does the client or partner or whoever it is you're working with have a preference or expectation regarding when I take my vacation? You see that difference? Does it matter when I do the hours and FaceTime and come on, forget it. Right? This is the difference. How can I be of service when meeting new people? I think we got that. So many times you're at a networking event and someone's like, hi, my name's this and I do so-and-so. I'm like, who cares? I don't care what you do. I'm here for the cheese and the drinks. I don't care what you do. And it came up, I wouldn't even say anything, but I was at the bar and I had no choice but to talk to that person. And then they'll hand me the card. I'm not going to rip this because I said it, but you know how people, they stick it, like, look here, there's my card. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And then I put it on the table. I'm not going to rip it up in front of them. One thing you can do with the card, if you do keep it by accident, right on the back, never call this person. But here's the thing, is how can I be of service when meeting new people? And that goes back to the communication, and we're going to get to feedback, which is very important, even though it's at the end. Thinking about the firm brand and the typical client, and how does this all fit in, right? It is that, so this is what I wanted to say. People say, well, I'm a lawyer and I work for the government. Or I'm a lawyer, I work for a nonprofit. Or I work for tax notes. Or I do do this, I do that. So I'm not, so this stuff you're saying, despite slide 2, which I didn't even pay attention to because you talk so fast, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just like 30 more minutes and then I get my skilly. The thing is that if you think of yourself as you are in business. You are in business. Every one of you are in business. You're in your own business, right? You are an owner of you. And your business is your brand. And your goal, your mission is to serve people. And you're doing some kind of service. I mean, all of you. Is there anyone who doesn't do service? I guess someone who sells products. But that's not in this group, right? There's just lawyers here. Are there people that are not lawyers here? You're in the wrong room. No. So you all have a service, right? So you are in your own business, and going back to this other slide, because repetition is fun, is instead of thinking, instead of thinking like an employee, if you really thought of every outlook, every conversation when you deal with someone, if I can use someone gave me a good example, is that they had some success, right, in some venture, and the partner didn't give them credit, right, which always happens, right, or a lot of times happens. The partner's like, no, I'm going to take that. You wrote the brief, thank you, I did it. No team, there's no team and no I and team, whatever it is. Here's the thing. You can turn that into a benefit. That's another way to market, right? Create a demand for your service. Here's the things that I do. You can market, but it's always with an eye towards how can I help people. When you think about your clients and you identify which clients you have, you say, okay, what do all these clients have in common? The two. That's what I did when I only had two. What do they have in common? What are their problems? And going back to here, just so I can keep going back to something I wrote. No, what are their challenges? You know what I mean? What is solution do I provide, and what's the outcome? And so many people, we talked about, I think it was the malpractice person, your thought, which is a nice specialty niche. The thing is, you got to say is, okay, here's what they deal with, right? Here's their challenges. Here's the solutions that I provide. Let me switch seats. That's what where is it? There it is. Okay. Here's the solutions that I provide. Here are the challenges. Here's the outcome, right? When you do those three things, people can be bidding for your work. I mean, that's why I'm working for the government. I got people all the time calling me. I go speak at these firms, and the associates like, are you going to help me with this? And it's not because I'm so brilliant, but that's also the case. No, it's because I understand what their challenges are, because I ask them. What are their challenges? What are your challenges? What are you dealing with right now? And if I have a solution, then I can be helpful, and I tell them what the solution is, and I tell them when we apply the solution, this will be the outcome, right? If you deal with everybody in those terms, you're going to be, there's no stopping, right? But she can't believe it. She's like choked up. The difference is most of the people I talk to, even at big firms, how many people are at big firms? Anybody? Where's the three? Venerable people? No, they left. See, that's why it's so important to know your audience, right? Just an example of they don't know. So people say, well, I'm not at a big firm. Again, we're going to react to something because even if you're a government, even if you're a nonprofit, you might not always be there, or you might be there, but you want to be the head. And not even further than that, forget about being the head of the ego thing. You want to serve your clients. And the way you serve your clients is not by thinking about, do I have to go to this networking event? It's how can I be of service when meeting with people? What's the mission and how do I get into that mission? Questions? Okay. So let's talk about feedback, and then I have some other thoughts for you. Okay. Let's talk about feedback. Oh, you know what? Let's do this example. Who's up for doing something? Besides listening to me talk. Okay, great. What's your name?
Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right, Jennifer, partner A asks if you can help with a memo she needs by Friday. And partner B, and by the way, you can substitute partner for whatever. Yeah. You get that. All right. Partner B asks if you can help with a memo he needs on Monday. Right? How would someone thinking like an employee handle, and how would someone thinking like a partner handle? And there's no wrong answer.
Someone thinking like an employee would be, well, it's Wednesday, and tomorrow's my RDO, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that done.
Right. Right. Very, very well stated. Anyone have anything to add to the employee thought? I know you have thoughts about this, Tim.
No, I'm not getting paid enough for this.
Can we give you half of the sealed credit? Jennifer, that's very good. All right, so and what's the partner side of it?
The partner side, the partner side is try to understand issues, say, yeah, if I have to work late, that's fine. This needs to get done.
Where are you at?
Transportation Security Administration.
Okay. Yeah, well, it sounds like you know what you're talking about, so listen to this one. Here's the thing. She brings up Jennifer, right? Jennifer? Yeah. Jennifer brings up a couple of good points. So many people say, one person told me, and again, there's no wrong answer, but it has to be, you have to do this back and forth. And one person told me, well, what I would do is I'd email both partners and say, you gave me the assignment here, you gave me this, you work it out and tell me what to do. I said, oh, you're at a big firm? Like, what happened? Yeah, you went to Yale, but really? But here's the thing is, if you were selling widgets, going to Jennifer, if you're selling widgets and someone asked you for a widget and then another client said, can I have this widget? You wouldn't go and say, hey, customers, you asked me for something, you asked me for something. Why don't you talk amongst yourselves so I can figure out what I'm supposed to do? That's exactly right, is that what you do in this situation, one thing you can do, there's a lot of things you can do. Anyone want to jump in or listening to me talk again?
I think as an employee, you can still take both, but I think honestly, the quality of the way you send it one day is going to be really bad. Or the quality of both might be bad, because you're just trying to give them something to get out the door.
I'm glad you brought that point up.
As an employee, but a part of our make sure the quality of both would be,
Yeah, that's good. What's your name?
Mary.
Miriam?
Yeah.
Thanks, Miriam. That's a good point. So, to Miriam's point, and this goes back to the thinking rigors, and we went through so quickly, I forgot what we were talking about, but on the thinking rigors, people say, what about the good enough standard? Look, I didn't get to the bottom of it, but it's good enough. And again, this all goes back to sort of expectations, motivations, what's driving the person that's asking you this, is I think there is a nice balance between, hey, I want to help you, and maybe you don't want to help them, so that's a different meeting. But I want to help you, I like working with you. I also got an assignment from partner A, and this is their timing, and I want to meet your timing. I just wanted to let you know that, but I am planning to do both. In other words, it's not communication, letting people know. It's not like sending emails saying, you guys figure it out. I'm prepared to do both, but it's just also be helpful if you say, partner A, I'd like to understand what's driving your timing. They're like, who are you? What do you mean you want to understand? Just do the work. You're not. Who are you to ask me what my timing is? Can you say, I understand you have a time-sensitive matter, and I want to do it right, and I want to do it properly. I got other assignments too, and I'm just trying to figure out, what, basically is what's driving your time. It'd be helpful if you care to share. It'd be helpful for me to know. But the thing is, again, I just fell into the Melissa trap. The Melissa example trap is now I'm saying what my issues are, and I'm starting with my issues again. Is you got to reverse it. You got to understand. Okay, this is what's driving. This is what I'm hearing you say, and all that other stuff, and then. When you state your issue, if your issue doesn't solve the problem, your issue can't just be solving the problem that you don't have enough time. That's the point. And the problem with these speeches is as fast as I talk and as much as we cover, this is only the what. This isn't the how, right? Because I can tell you what, you could do these 5 things. And you leave and you say, well, I don't even know, it's a nice slide, but how can I do it? And the how is, we try to get into some of that here, but we're not going to cover all the issues. But the only point of this is to open your mind. And think a little bit differently, and think about the other person and how you can serve the other person. And by the way, if you're not interested in serving the other person, this is what I found out, that maybe you shouldn't be a lawyer. And that's what I realized, because I'm like, I've never connected the fact that service was being a lawyer. I thought being a lawyer was being someone smart and talking to a judge. I didn't realize that the reason why I'm talking to a judge is to serve a client. Anyway, good thoughts, Miriam. So, feedback. Okay. So let's go 10 more minutes. And then we'll do questions. Yeah, that'd be good. Write down something on the card. Write down just something, anything. No, here's something, what you should write down on the card? You might not have a question. Write down something you're going to do after this talk, or, not like right after, maybe right after, but, something you're going to do to implement any of these things. Write it down. And you can send it to me, or you can send it to Melissa, or who's it? What's
Laura.
Yeah, Melissa or Laura, if you want to be held accountable, you'll get the CLE credit then. You don't need to do this to get the CLE credit, but just for fun, if you're interested, write down something you're going to do in response to this, anything I said. It might be useful for you. But anyway, if you don't want to do that, you can rip up the cards. Another thing you can do is write a question, and I'll do it anonymously. I'm not going to call you out unless I do. No, but anyway, so questions or something you're going to do as a result of listening to me talk. Or not. Okay, feedback. So here's the thing, here's the most important thing about feedback that I can tell you, is you've got to make feedback you got to make your professional development a case, and you're the client. And the people that I work with, and especially the people that I don't work with, they don't do that. They think of feedback is, it's almost like CLE. It's like, that's something I have to do, but I don't really enjoy getting feedback. I don't enjoy giving feedback. And but you got to make your professional development sort of that priority, because here's the thing. The worst feedback you can get is, you're doing great. And I tell people all the time, I want them to evaluate me. And so, I mean, I appreciate saying, oh, you did great, you talked real fast. I don't really understand what you're talking about, but it was pretty good speech. That's good with the fast and all that, but pretty good, you're doing fine. That's not going to really help me. Just like if I say, hey, your writing is it's fine. It's fine. You're doing fine. You're doing just fine. Here's where your writing could use some work, or here's where your speaking could use some work, or here's where your analysis could use some work, or here's where, here's something you could fine tune. You want that. Because here's the thing, you don't have to agree with it. You could just say, okay, thank you for your feedback. And you go, yeah, I don't agree with that, so that's fine. But it's so much better than hearing you're great. Because even though you're great helps you, makes you feel good, sort of temporarily. The best part about feedback is having something to do. And so many lawyers, they're not great at giving feedback, and they're also not good at accepting feedback. And so here's what I say to those lawyers. There's two things I can do. One is, if you're at a firm or in a place that has an evaluation form, those forms are stupid. They say things that aren't tied to anything, and they say, like teamwork and communicating, and kind of like this person, they say teamwork, and they say like these words, and you're like, what does this really even mean? But sometimes the forms are quite helpful. But in any event, you can use the form as a barometer. You can say, because if you don't know how to ask for feedback, you say, how am I, see what the firm or the company or the nonprofit or the government value, you say, how am I doing in X, Y, and X area? But if you think the forms are complete junk, which a lot of times there, you say, you know what, rate me A, B, and C. It's so easy. A, B, and C is my writing, A, B, and C. What do I need to do? And they say, B plus, B minus. What do I need to do to get an A? And again, you don't have to, maybe you're like, I'm at the government. If I wanted to get an A, I'd go to a big firm. Well, that's the thing. You don't have to get to an A. In other words, you don't have to go do the work to get to an A, but isn't it helpful to hear it? Isn't it helpful to hear it so that you can have the option? Give yourself the option. So, and just to have some fun, so if you enjoyed these remarks, one thing, so I wrote a book, write another book. If I get helpful, like really thoughtful, good on time?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go 10. If I get really, did I get the credit? If I get really helpful feedback, then I send free books out, because the thing is that, first of all, it's great for me, and also it's like, wow, they really heard one thing that I said in 40 minutes, and that's pretty good. So think about that. Specific, that's the best thing about, so there's a couple different things. Is you want to make it easy for people to get feedback. A lot of people don't like hearing that they suck. And it's not that you suck, it's that they have an opinion about how you could be better. And maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but at least it's just an opinion, it's just information. And if you think of it that way, and you maybe say, I appreciate your honesty, I appreciate this and all that stuff, and you want to make it easy so people come back and give you the feedback, but that's part one. And part two is, and how do I get to where you think I should be? It's not even how do I get to be perfect, because maybe they're not perfect, but it's how do they think what can you do to get to where they think you should be? Do you have feedback in your organization?
Yes.
How does it work?
Review periods, books throughout the year. Behaviors with us to review our progress so far.
And how does that process work?
It's done throughout the year, so we set your goals in January or so, and then you get feedback on those goals from the beginning, how to tune them, and then there's a mid-year review, and then at the end of the year, which technically is October for us, then we get the whole review. We have the right self-assessment, which we can say.
Wow, I'm getting tired just listening to all this. Well, that's okay. So you have probably a fairly typical model, I would say, where you have this period and you get this stuff and everything else. What I'm talking about, this is again thinking like an owner, sort of taking affirmative action. Is you go in between scheduled reviews. It's really easy at the review to say, okay, what am I doing, this and that, and then they go through a list and everything. But how about you work on a couple of projects for somebody or with somebody, and you say, how did I do? Again, how did I do? How I want to make sure that I'm responsive to okay. I was supposed to go off too God, I just got a break from time. So we go, let's go like 7 minutes. So, so the point is seeking it in between reviews, right? And make it easy for people. But here's the superstar person. Again, you don't want to be this person, but here's what they would do: is you take the suggestion, and it is, I think, it is sort of a joint responsibility, both for the people you work with and you know, to say, okay, well, how can I do that better? It's not like you just sit there, okay, my writing sucks, tell me what to do. It's, you know, maybe you have some thoughts about it, maybe they have some thoughts about it. It's sort of a collaborative thing. And again, you can't do it every project, because that's like, you're not going to have time to do it every project. But after a couple projects, it's okay, how can I do this? How can I do this? But here's the thing. Here's my action plan. You told me you told me that my writing has, you know, it's not concise. You told me I talk too fast, I walk a lot, and I don't stick to the topic. You told me those 3 things. And thank you for that helpful feedback. And here's my thoughts about how to improve on those things. Tell me what you think about that. And I'd like to, if it's you know, people you're like, well, no one would ever say this, but you say, well, I'd like to the opportunity to report back to you, you know, and share my prayers. Is that something you're comfortable with? You know, so it's again, it's going back to the other thing. I heard you say, you know, restating, it goes back. See, all this stuff works together. Because there are different words, but it's the same thing. Communicate, thinking like an owner, feedback. We need the rigorous writing and research that goes into preferences and all that. But it's all about thinking about, you know, what's in it for the other person. So that's it. When you get feedback, that's the thing. It's like, here's the finesse. This is sort of the second to last point. Is that the feedback actually is for you, right? So this goes to the case of, you know, you want it to be for them. But the reason why it would be helpful for that person is you'll be more productive. You know what I mean? So this goes back to, so when you think about it, it's like, hey, can I have feedback because I want to be the best I can be? Who cares about you? I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not here to give you feedback. Can I have feedback so I can serve you, or I can serve, and you got to work on the words, right? But so I can serve the clients more effectively, you know, so I can be more effective for your clients. You know, in other words, how is what they're going to do helping them with their need? It also helps you, but just turn it around so someone's encouraged and excited about giving feedback. Anyone have thoughts on that? Ted?
Giving feedback or?
Well, just anything. In other words, how does the feedback, I mean, it'd be interesting in your situation.
I mean, from my situation, I work with administrative law judges. So in ours, I get a lot of feedback. I mean, they rate me on the quality of my order that I draft. They tell me whether it's timely, whether it meets their, you know, it's satisfactory or above. But they can also write comments. Now, if I wanted to go the extra mile, we're able to actually review. A lot of the time they make subtle changes to it because you may be working with a different judge. And you want to learn their specific style. Word has a great feature where you can actually compare your draft that you handed in and the draft that you gave them. And you can learn the different styles of each judge that way. And then, you know, going on forward, keep notes. This judge likes it written up this way. And I think that applies to partners as well. You know, partners want it written this way. And just take that going forward.
Right, that's great. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that's just, I mean, it's almost like I planted Tim, but it's been brilliant. The key is that Tim's probably a brilliant lawyer, right? I don't know this, but I'm guessing he's substantive. You know, going back to the beginning, this is not tricks. You got to do the work. But he also understands that to be good at his job, he's got to understand the preferences of those judges. And that's one thing to say, yeah, you know, it's kind of like this. But it's, you know, this is a good example. I've worked with some litigators. They know those rules. They know the rules of the court. They know, you know, all that stuff. But they don't think of this kind of, they call it, I hate when people say soft skills because it makes it sound like it's not important as the court rules. But in fact, this is just as important, right? I would even argue more important. I mean, you got to do the other stuff, full stop. But this stuff is the stuff that traps people. It's the nits. It's the not being sensitive to someone's motivation and preference and everything. And that's how you put forward. So does that feedback process work well for you?
Yeah, I think it works wonderfully. And actually, a lot of people in our office do similar things so that we can all stay up to date.
Yeah, one thing that's helpful. So a lot, and there's some firms actually that they have these evaluation forms. I don't know your place in London, but they have these forms that are actually quite useful. It's just that you don't get them until 6 months or 1 year, and so you're like the whole year you're like, I don't know. And then I've had a couple of clients where they get sabotaged, it's anonymous, and they're like, you suck, you didn't do it on time, your writing is this, and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. When I say to that person, why didn't you have any idea? Did you think about doing this process, And a lot of people, I mean, that's the thing about lawyers, again, two things. One is they're not good at giving feedback, I find a lot, because I'm not sure why. Yeah, maybe that's a good thought, especially at the firm, especially dealing with different people. I think that's right. And especially if they're doing especially if someone's doing if someone's doing poorly, it's very sensitive. That's a good thought.
I was just thinking that important to seek feedback is also just recognizing it when you get it.
Just recognize what?
Recognizing feedback when you get it. You're trying to come to answer if you got somebody coming to you multiple times, and that's telling something.
Right.
Some of that nonverbal stuff, so it's, reading the room, soft skills, and like that.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
I have a question. So when you're dealing with a new partner to the actors that you never worked with, or the attorney that you never worked with, and they're just not a person that gives feedback, how do you understand that? How do you kind of meet them wrong? You have to be more proactive about getting your feedback on them, and how do you go about getting that feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would do two things. First is, again, being proactive and being like an owner is before you work with any new partner, to the extent, and it's not always possible, but to the extent you can talk to an assistant or talk to someone who's worked with that partner, just about any information, any intel. What do they like? What time do they come in? All these things that you can write in your notes, like Tim does, would be helpful. But the thing about the person, again, if I could give you anything, boy, I'm going to give you like three things, but this is the real thing that I want to give you is when dealing with people in a law setting, or really any setting, but let's not go crazy here, when dealing with people in the law setting, if you can understand what motivates that person, you'll get anything you want. And so the thing is, in that example, and I do it too, is you're like, how can I get what I want? That's what you ask me. And that's what everybody asks. And here's the problem with that. It doesn't, that's my bio. I'm a brilliant guy and I did this and I wrote books. Instead it's what are they facing? What is my solution and what's the outcome? Something along those lines is what's motivating that person. And what's motivating that person might be that they're busy, or the biggest thing is like if they have a big client or a big timing thing coming up, and that they might be thinking about that, and that's all they're thinking about. You come in and you're like, I need feedback, and they're like, well, here's feedback. Get out of my office, and I never want to see you again. But the thing is, if you can get any intel on, and this is also how you can get clients, by the way, that's another seminar. But and most of you don't care about that because your client's the government or the nonprofit, but you might one day. If you can understand what's motivating that person, you read an article, you listen to them talk, you hear what they say, you say, okay, that's what's motivating them. Now I know what's motivating them, and that is the hard thing. Because they're not going to walk around saying, this is what motivates me. It's not like you say, what motivates you? And they'll be like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. So that's why the intel are also, even just talking to the person, what are the kind of projects you're working on? And most people will tell you, they're not time sensitive. They'll tell you, what are the issues affecting your clients? What are kind of the biggest issues affecting your clients? I know you work with XYZ client. I'd love to help you in any way I can. Well, what are the top 3 issues affecting that client? And what are you dealing with? Understand the motivation. Once you understand their motivation, you think about how you can solve that motivation. And if you can do that, then you can come in and say, then you can make you say, I think I can be helpful in that area because blah, 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 blah. What do you think about that? Don't assume. And then, by the way, in that context, I wondered if, and then you end up, so it's all time, it's facts and circumstances, so it's not directly responsive to your question, which is unfortunate. But it is in that context, do you have a thought about how I can be most helpful? So you know what I mean here's my proposal, you know what I mean? What do you think about that? And that's a way of getting feedback. But that's the one thing that I'll leave you with is that, and I probably failed at that here because I just talked to 2 tables, which is like, you never do that at a wedding, right? So many people would feel that. I just talked to 2 tables about what they want to hear. Mostly they told me CLE, and they wanted to get the credit. And so you guys are going to get the credit, don't worry. And I stopped at that. I didn't talk to the other tables. And also, I asked Liz, I said, who's going to be speaking here? Who's going to be in the audience? Because the fact is if I had been more rigorous with that and learned that, there's not going to be one big firm person here. No, I know, but I'm just saying, this is what I can learn from. Maybe a different title, a different way of packaging. But I would have said the same material. I don't want you to feel gypped for your CLE, because I think this stuff applies to everybody. But it's always important to understand what the other, what's motivating them, right? Because in fact, it's probably more than CLE. They win at lunch too. Anything else on feedback? So then, what do we got? Let's do two. Well, so let's close. Let's close. So, did you have the cards?
I did. Do you have any cards that they want to send up?
Yeah, I guess that would not make it anonymous. Maybe you want to go around. So here's more information. I want to say two things. So one, I really am serious about this. Not just a marketing pitch. No, it's you had some useful thing to say. You might want to share it with the co-chairs. You say, what, I'm going to go do X, Y, Z. I think that would be, it might hold yourself accountable. I'd be interested to hear it. Email me or email the co-chairs. If you have any feedback for me, that's, I'd be interested to hear it. There's two white papers that I didn't have time to print out for everybody, but one is the art of getting a law firm cover letter, the art of the law firm cover letter. Now, you people, a lot of you are like, I'm never going to need that because I'm never going to a big firm, especially after listening to this guy talk. But if you're interested, it's a 2-page PDF, and just email me, I'll send it to you. No, it's not a fee or anything. Oh, good. Questions? So that's one. The second paper I have is learning how to promote yourself. And it's titled "Promote Yourself as an Associate." A lot of some of you aren't associates, but it's like any of this stuff. It really has cross application. And the beauty of these white papers is that it's more of the how to do it. This is what to do. You'll read this and you're like, I have some idea what he said, but I didn't really get the how. And the white papers didn't go into that. And I call them white papers, so we don't think of a 30-page document. It's a couple of pages. If you're interested, send me an email. All right, questions?
Just an FYI, we don't have time for all of them.
Okay. Boy, don't I wish I didn't talk that much at the end. No, that's my note. So actively seek more feedback. We don't even have reviews or feedback forms. Melissa? This is a good thought. Whoever asked this, we don't even have reviews or feedback forms. There's no forms? There's no evaluation forms? Huh? No, here, at this presentation.
Oh, there are forms that are being emailed to you.
Okay, good. Whoever asked this, nice job. That's brilliant right there. On their way. Good job. Yes, I want your feedback. I definitely want your feedback. And you're going to be email forms?
Yeah, actually it's going to be coming from the same person that emailed the materials.
Examine if I actually want to serve. I just keep thinking about the cash money, and maybe real estate was my calling. It's huge. This is great. I love this. Maybe real estate is your calling. And, for me, let's see, how do I get to the answer to this? That's a fair question, whether you want to serve. You know what I came to realize? I was wondering that question about myself, because I didn't think of myself as, particularly before I got married and had kids, I really didn't care about other people. And now I'm constantly in the role of, okay, what's motivating that person, so I can do what I want to. I think everything you do is actually serving people, so if you could think of it like that. But you gotta follow your passion. But the key to your passion, even when you find your passion, even with real estate, if you're gonna buy or sell, you're still gonna have to apply these processes, because the fact is, the person on the other side is gonna have motivations and preferences, and you have to deal with that person. So you should, it might help to learn this stuff and then go be a realtor. Or I guess you're probably thinking not a realtor. I don't know, maybe you're thinking of developing. But in any case, I think these things are relevant. But I think that's an important question, because I had to examine that. Do I really want to be a lawyer? And I'm still examining that, because I'm like, that's why I'm still doing tax law and writing tax law. I'm like, this stuff is so tedious and monotonous. I want to be out and speaking. I want to be Tony Robbins for lawyers. And so I think about that question every day. I think it's a good question, and I think it's important to ask, and whoever asks that is thinking about their clients, because you're not going to do your clients a service if you're not really into serving, right, in the law capacity, but maybe you'll do it to someone else. Good question. Failure is feedback. I fail a lot and take note. This is great. You people are great. Good. Failure, that's right. Failure. Look at all the things I failed at in this conversation, and if I didn't do it, I wouldn't learn from the next time. We got time?
Yeah.
Okay, how do you check in with an unhelpful or unresponsive supervisor? Great question. There's so many of these, particularly in government, and I can say that because I work in government. Maybe you can say that too, Jennifer. The thing is the way you check in is to understand what's motivating them. That's it, full stop. What's motivating them? You say, well, someone told me this, they want to think that they always have the right idea, that they're always right. I was like, good, they're an idea person. You go in with ideas, you say, I appreciate your, I admire, you can't lie, but maybe stress the truth is you're an idea person, and I admire the way have this idea, this idea. I have some ideas that, I don't know, maybe you've thought about them, because you don't, everyone is, because of course they thought about them, right? And maybe we help you share, and then you present ideas if that's what they're interested in, and then you convert that into challenge, what are those words? Challenge, solution, and outcome. Good question. What motivates them? Find out what motivates them. Things I'll do. Great. Tailor more carefully clarifying questions and ask them. Good. Talk other senior shareholders out. Oh, take other senior shareholders out in a group to ask about shared bosses' preferences. Great. Ask for feedback, development, improvement plan. Yeah, this is all great stuff. Good. I like that plan thing. That's an important thing. Is when we talked about that is you don't just say, okay, what would I do? You actually have to, people when you hear the word business plan, are you sensitive?
Yeah, another minute.
Whoever wrote this, email me. I have some other thoughts about it, if you care to hear. Reorient my cover letters from a service perspective. Brilliant. See, so many, when I was at the firm, I would read these cover letters saying, I went to this school and I did this. And I'm like, I don't care about this. I don't care where they went. I don't care how smart they are. And they're not that smart because they didn't say anything about what I care about. I understand your firm has, does this kind of tax and it helps people with these issues. I can be helpful because. Good thought here. Whoever wrote that. All right. This looks like a lot of words. Oh my God, I think we're going to finish. Okay. Last one. Introversion, extroversion dichotomy. Okay. This concept presented today is great because it's more than just telling introverts to pretend to be an extrovert. I agree with that. And before I keep reading, by the way, always keep reading. That's a thing, and Alice knows this, but always keep reading. Don't stop. And I'm going to stop. And I'm going to say that so many people that I work with, they say, like Alice, she's like, I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to be up there doing that. I don't want to ask people their preference. And I'm like, you know what? Don't do it. Rip up the card. Where's your card? You took it back.
No, it's on the table.
It's on the table where people are going to leave it, right? You don't want, Alice, you don't want to do that? Alice, you come up here and talk about consolidated regs. In other words, do what's comfortable for you in this paradigm. Good thought. Second thing, it might be difficult for an introvert to work a room, but individual one-on-one communication. For introverts, slides offer specific discussion topics, good thought, could actually even up some of the extrovert bias in workplace. Yeah, I can't read this thing. US, is this a case? Well, anyway, MBTI categories. Anyway, whoever wrote this, that's a good thought to offer specific topics. But here's the thing, and this goes to your first point. I'm not asking, we're not asking you to change your personality. You gotta come as you. But come as you with an awareness and an appreciation for the fact that the person you're talking with has has a challenge that you may or may not be helpful for. And if you're not helpful for that person, that's fine. You can still talk and have a drink, but that's probably not gonna be a client. Right? But it doesn't mean you don't talk to them. There's other people that have more aggressive things. But introverts, it doesn't matter. You don't have to work a room. It's not about impressing 10 people. It's about getting one person in front of you and saying, you have this challenge. I heard you say this. I understand. I can be helpful because. Or you know what, maybe I can't be helpful, but Melissa, my friend, she does that kind of law. I'll connect you if that would be something of interest to you.
By the way, I think public utilities is probably working on
Melissa does public utilities. So that's our time.
Thank you.